Episode 2 of Chasing the Sun 2 aired last night, and I'm going to give you my reaction and a couple of thoughts I had coming off the back of it. Now, I didn't do a reaction to episode 1 because honestly, I was a little bit underwhelmed by episode 1 of the new Chasing the Sun 2. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think Chasing the Sun 1 showed the Springboks coming from a very underrated side to winning the World Cup, and now for this one, it's almost them trying to retain the World Cup. Well, that's exactly what it is, them trying to retain the World Cup. So there isn't really an underdog story going into this one. So I wasn't very captivated by episode 1, but episode 2 gave us a lot to think about, a lot to talk about, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing in today's video. If you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 100,000 subscribers and we want you to be a part of it. Now, the first talking point of episode 2 is the Malcolm Marx injury. Now, I think at the time we didn't understand how serious it was because all we saw was Handré Pollard next on the list. He was going to be the one who was going to be called up. It looked very simple from an outsider's perspective, but after watching episode 2 last night, it seems like it wasn't super clear cut for the coaching staff. They didn't actually have the thoughts of bringing Handré Pollard in for the first injury, especially the first injury being Malcolm Marx. But you kind of see the coaching staff go through the thought processes and options of who and what the solution should be. Obviously, Bongi Mbonambe then starts for the Springboks, but who's going to be that second replacement hooker? No one knew who Rassie was going to call up, and then they called up Handré Pollard, which obviously got all the podcasts, all the pundits, all the articles being written about Handré Pollard coming in for Malcolm Marx, which turned out to be an absolute masterstroke. A lot of the overseas Northern Hemisphere pundits and podcasts kind of took the Mickey out of Rassie Erasmus a little bit and kind of saw it as a little bit of a risk. But as we saw in that Romania game, Rassie said that Bongi was going to play the first 40 minutes and then they were going to trial Deon Fourie and Marco van Staden at hooker in the second half, 20 minutes for Deon Fourie and then 20 minutes for Marco van Staden. Obviously, we know now that Deon Fourie played a massive role in that hooker position and it ended up working. Obviously, the Boks won the World Cup, but it kind of gave us an insight into how that decision got made, into how vital Malcolm Marx is to the Springboks, and the risks that the Springboks and the coaching staff are willing to take to win a Rugby World Cup. Then they moved on to Bongi Mbonambe and the pivotal and impactful role that he plays within the Springboks. I mean, I'm glad they did it because Bongi is one of those guys that I do think goes under the radar a little bit, especially when Malcolm Marx is fit and Bongi sort of plays second fiddle to Malcolm Marx. But Bongi Mbonambe was vital in the Springboks winning the 2023 World Cup. Not only his leadership, but also his dominance, his big dog attitude that they go into. He's the leader within that forward pack that gets the boys riled up and going, and he's sort of that front man that doesn't take a foot backwards and sort of sets the precedent for what the Springbok pack is, and that's hard, dominant. They get on the front foot and they make every single collision count. I think coupled with that is this thought that Siya Kolisi might be stepping down from captaincy. Rassie might be looking at another captaincy option because Siya Kolisi is playing over in France for Racing 92, and Bongi could be sort of the next captain for the Springboks over the next 2 or 3 years because he is based in South Africa. So it was kind of cool to see them dive into Bongi Mbonambe, show his leadership capabilities and show that he is the big dog on the pitch. And then the big focus of episode 2 was the South Africa Ireland game. And I think it's really put the series now this year against Ireland, the 2 test matches at Loftus and at the Shark Tank, it's really put that series on a pedestal. It's made it even more valuable that now again, the number 1 and the number 2 team in the world are going to be going head to head and really battling it out to see who is top dog. Rewatching that game, again, I'm going to stand firm on what I said back in the World Cup, but the Springboks should have won that game. Mani missed 2 vital kicks in that game, which is again why Handré Pollard got called up. The amount of dominance that South Africa had in that first half and probably should have scored. You have to give credit to Ireland for that defense, but I do think the Springboks played the better game. To cap that off, that final maul, that final line out, there should have been a penalty there for the Springboks. You can clear as day see a couple of the Irishmen coming in from the side for that maul and collapsing it. The ball was also out when the ref called that the maul had come to an end. So a couple of decisions not going the Springboks' way in that game against Ireland, but it also again shows the small margins that happen between these number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 sides in the world. Everyone's watched the tape, as they said in the episode. Everyone knows what everyone's going to do. The Springboks know what Ireland are going to try and do, and Ireland know exactly what the Springboks are going to do. It was a massive battle of brains versus brawn, and that's exactly what Rassie said in some of the coaching staff meetings, is that Ireland sort of get this thrill out of being the cleverer side, where South Africa need to focus on the brawn. Let Ireland be the brains, let them try and run 6 different lines and really try and work it out, but as South Africans, we focus on what we're good at, and that's brawn. Meeting them on the line, meeting them physically, and really trying to push them back. Obviously, that didn't actually happen. Like Faf said in episode 2, that is the game plan, but sometimes the game plan doesn't happen and they're a little bit harder than you expected or that what you were told, which again builds up this series between Ireland and South Africa so much this year. It really is going to be the 2 best teams in the world going at it. Another thing I was quite delighted to see was how happy Ireland were with that win over the Springboks. I don't know if it was just the editing of the episode, but it really rubbed me the wrong way of how happy, cocky the Irish were. And to know that they got knocked out in the quarterfinals felt really good. I'm going to be honest, as a South African fan, it did feel good knowing that what the outcome of the World Cup was, that Ireland fell out in the quarterfinals and that the Springboks ended up winning it. And then sort of the final part of the episode was, after this loss against Ireland, Eben Etzebeth even said it, is that he felt relaxed after the loss. He felt almost like relieved that they had gone through this game. They knew they didn't have to win it to make it through to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and final. They just had to beat Scotland. And to see the Springboks take a step back like that and not willing to die for the badge, not willing to win every single match that they are given, kind of rubs the fans the wrong way after watching that, but it also rubbed Rassie Erasmus the wrong way. And that's exactly how episode 2 finished. Rassie Erasmus sitting the team down on the Monday morning and basically shitting them out. Basically saying that they wouldn't die for the badge on their chest. They say that they are these role models, but if they're not willing to give it all in every single game, then can they really be called the Springboks? So, I mean, a lot of passion. I'm glad it happened because episode 1, like I said, I felt a little bit underwhelmed. Episode 2 has given us a little bit more look into that Ireland versus South African game. It's really built up the series this year of who is going to be the best. And I'm glad to see that Rassie Erasmus puts the Springboks in their place. Those are just some of my thoughts on episode 2. Let me know if you like this type of video. Leave your opinions and thoughts down in the comments as always. If you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy. Peace.